Hello, my name is Ava Rosenberg. I'm a sophomore at Immaculata University, majoring in education, and today we will be reading Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. Because of Winn-Dixie is a novel that features a 10-year-old girl named Opal, who is lonely and mourning the abandonment of her mother. She moves to Naomi, Florida with her father, a preacher. Opal finds a stray dog at a grocery store, names him Winn-Dixie, and through their companionship, they befriend many new people in town, including Franny Block, Gloria Dump, and Otis, as well as rekindling her relationship with her father. The setting of the story is crucial because it establishes a sense of community, influences the characters' interactions, and contributes to the novel's themes of acceptance. This book is the winner of a Newbery Award, and it was made into a film. DiCamillo was inspired to write Because of Winn-Dixie by a combination of factors, including a yearning for her dog and a desire to write a story that transported her back to the warm South and where she grew up. Let's get started, shall we? Chapter 1. My name is India Opal Baloney, and last summer, my daddy, the preacher, sent me to the store for a box of macaroni and cheese, some white rice, and 2 tomatoes, and I came back with a dog. This is what happened. I walked into the produce section of the Winn-Dixie grocery store to pick out my 2 tomatoes, and I almost bumped right into the store manager. He was standing there all red-faced, screaming and waving his arms around. "Who let a dog in here?" he kept on shouting. "Who let a dirty dog in here?" At first, I didn't see a dog. There were just a lot of vegetables rolling around on the floor. Tomatoes and onions and green peppers. And there was what seemed like a whole army of Winn-Dixie employees running around, waving their arms just the same way the store manager was waving his. And then the dog came running around the corner. He was a big dog and ugly, and he looked like he was having a real good time. His tongue was hanging out, and he was wagging his tail. He skiddied to a stop and smiled right at me. I have never before in my life seen a dog smile, but that is what he did. He pulled back his lips and showed me all his teeth. Then he wagged his tail so hard that he knocked some oranges off a display, and they went rolling everywhere, mixing in with the tomatoes and onions and green peppers. The manager screamed, "Somebody grab that dog!" The dog went running over to the manager, wagging his tail and smiling. He stood up on his hind legs. You could tell that all he wanted to do was get face to face with the manager and thank him for the good time he was having in the produce department. But somehow he ended up knocking the manager over. And the manager must have been having a bad day, because lying there on the floor, right in front of everybody, he started to cry. The dog leaned over him, real concerned, and licked his face. "Please," said the manager, "somebody call the pound." "Wait a minute," I hollered. "That's my dog. Don't call the pound." All the Winn-Dixie employees turned around and looked at me, and I knew I had done something big, and maybe stupid too, but I couldn't help it. I couldn't let that dog go to the pound. "Here, boy," I said. The dog stopped licking the manager's face and put his ears up in the air and looked at me like he was trying to remember where he knew me from. "Here, boy," I said again, and then I figured that the dog was probably just like everybody else in the world, that he would want to get called by a name, only I didn't know what his name was. So I just said the first thing that came to my head. I said, "Here, Winn-Dixie." And that dog came trotting over to me just like he had been doing it his whole life. The manager sat up and gave me a hard stare, like I was making fun of him. "It's his name," I said. "Honest." The manager said, "Don't you know not to bring a dog into the grocery store?" "Yes, sir," I told him. "He got in by mistake. I'm sorry. It won't happen again." "Come on, Winn-Dixie," I said to the dog. I started walking, and he followed along behind me as I went out of the produce department and down the cereal aisle and past all the cashiers and out the door. Once we were safe outside, I checked him over real careful, and he didn't look that good. He was big but skinny. You could see his ribs. And there were bald patches all over him, places where he didn't have fur at all. Mostly, he looked like a big piece of old brown carpet that had been left out in the rain. "You're a mess," I told him. "I bet you don't belong to anybody." He smiled at me. He did that thing again where he pulled back his lips and showed me his teeth. He smiled so big that it made him sneeze. It was like he was saying, "I know I'm a mess." Isn't it funny? It's hard not to immediately fall in love with a dog who has a good sense of humor. "Come on," I told him. "Let's see what the preacher has to say about you." And the two of us, me and Winn-Dixie, started walking home. Thank you all so much for paying attention to this book. Now, before we end the video, I have a few comprehension questions that I would like you all to answer to the best of your ability. So if you remember reading from the book, Opal was supposed to go to the store for macaroni and cheese, rice, and tomatoes, but instead, she came back with a dog who later became Winn-Dixie. Now for question 2. So if you remember what Opal was saying, she was saying that Winn-Dixie is a stray dog. So stray dogs usually tend to look a little bit more, well, dirtier than dogs that live in someone's house. So if you remember, Winn-Dixie was described as very skinny, he had bald spots, he wasn't very the cleanest looking of dogs. So the problem of that chapter was Winn-Dixie snuck into the store and he was not invited to go to that store. Obviously, he's a dog. So this freaked everybody out in the store. The store manager was angry. The workers were chasing him around and the fruit and vegetables was going all over the place. So in order to solve this problem, Opal made up a lie that Winn-Dixie was her dog and she took him under his wing to save him from going to the pound. This concludes our first chapter Friday study of Because of Winn-Dixie. For the next chapter, I invite you to please read chapter 2 and keep this question in your head. What do you think Opal's father, the preacher, will think that his daughter brought home a stray dog just from going home from the supermarket? Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.